Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This guy opposite me, he is Tim, and this is Second Legacy, and thank you for stopping by. Today, my brothers and sisters, we have got a peek. We've got to crack open the skull and see the idea of an anti-gun individual and really break down their arguments, because this is going to blow your mind, and I promise you, you're going to leave a comment on this one because, wow. Now, of course, Tim, I have to start these things out by asking the appropriate question first. How the heck are you, my man?
Oh, doing good. You know,
You ready?
when you wake up in the morning and you see a video clip of an anti-gunner being dumb as a box of rocks, it just kind of makes your whole day.
Well, we've got a rather big box, and we've got 4 collections of rocks to show you people for the Second Legacy. So, of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on as we distribute freedom on the daily. Tim, why don't we give him a treat? Let's just dive right into clip number 1 to set this up. How does that sound?
Okay. Oh, it sounds perfect.
So your concern would be he might use the gun on you?
Even if he owned the gun or whatever, they say that didn't happen to me. I don't like guns.
Okay, so you don't like.
I don't agree with the whole thing. I don't believe in them. I wouldn't.
Wait a minute. You don't believe in them? What do you mean? You think nobody should have guns?
I just don't feel. Why do you need to have a gun? Why do you need to kill somebody? Why do you need to hurt somebody with a gun? You don't, for what?
Just say 3 dudes come in there. I'm talking about real guns.
There's other weapons that they can have. They don't need a gun.
But if he said, sweetheart, I want a gun, and you would say, no, you don't need a gun. Get out there and fight. Is that how you would proceed?
You don't need a gun to do it.
That's what you would tell him. You don't need a gun with 3 dudes?
Nah, there's other things you can use in the house. You don't
what?
need a gun. You got bats in there. You got knives. You got other shit you can use. You don't need a gun.
All right. So to set this up properly, just so we can, appropriately go forward, Tim, the question that was posed was, would you date a guy with a gun? That was the first one. And then that is Brandon Tatum. He's a very well-known conservative commentator on YouTube, okay, and has a radio show. So on that, Tim, what's your initial thoughts to that, talking about what that woman just said about guns and her perspective? What are your initial thoughts?
Well, I mean, we just saw the face of stupid. It was sitting over there in the corner. I mean, it's stunning. The lengths to which some people will go. So she doesn't like guns. Okay. I don't like jumping out of airplanes. You know what I won't do? Jump out of an airplane. If you don't like guns, don't buy one. But what is this notion of, well, I don't like them, therefore you can't have one? It's this mindset that they know better than we do, that, I've decided to become a victim, therefore you should decide to become a victim. We should all be victims together, because I don't like the whole idea of guns, she says. Well, what's the idea of a gun? Self-defense, food on the table. You don't like eating. You don't like living. So what is it exactly you do besides suck air that somebody else provides for you? Because if you were left to your own devices, you probably wouldn't live past 20. But I mean, that's just me.
I'm so glad the word air just came out of your mouth. I had a micro moment of concern. All right. So, so the big thing that I caught on that, and I think that this is obviously, we're going to have 4 clips here, people. This is going to be rife for comments down there. But the big thing that really struck me is 2 things in that conversation. That's just the first one. One, I don't believe in guns. Like they're the tooth fairy? Like you don't believe that they exist? You don't believe in the idea of using it? You don't believe in the idea of violence? Well, no, because in the next thing that she said, violence is perfectly fine. You've got other weapons around the house. 3 people invade or break into your house. You've got knives. You've got baseball bats. You've got other things that you can use. So this is the most fascinating piece around an anti-gun mentality to me. You don't want to have violence that is perpetrated with a gun, but you're perfectly fine with violence with a knife or with a bat or any other object. It's like, so your problem is not with violence. Your problem is literally with the inanimate object that is labeled gun. It is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. Apparently she's never seen somebody disemboweled or somebody's head bashed in with the ball bat or the brain bucket just splits wide open. I mean, she's like, I'm not going to shoot anybody. Now I'll stab them to death. I'll stick them right in the throat. I'll bash their brains right out of their head, but I am not shooting anybody. That's just not right. We don't need that. There's other things I can do. I can blow you up. I can burn you alive. I can drown you, but I am not shooting you.
but
Go
I
away,
will
sir.
not use it. Good day, sir. Exactly.
Good day, sir.
Exactly. You nailed it. It makes no sense on any level other than you are just afraid of something that's an inanimate object, but you're not afraid of violence. That is so fascinating to me. But let's keep going because it gets even, you guys figure it out. Let's go to number 2 of this little escapade.
But what if they had a gun?
Crossbow. Well, then
But it's too late now. They're in there. You can't be like, hey, y'all, hold on, y'all got a gun?
Then-
No, you can't do that.
Then you know what? That's life. Maybe that's the way I gotta die. Then I gotta die. That's how I go.
So you rather
So you rather somebody shoot you before you
You gonna get home or
your
killed.
your son's life is on the line.
My son won't.
Is that? I mean, like people
What?
actually think like that. Like,
I wouldn't call what she does thinking. Okay.
Well, I mean, like
That's a bit of a stretch, but yes, it's like you can stab me, you can shoot me, you can do whatever you want. I'm just not going to fight back with a gun.
That's just the breaks.
But
them's the breaks.
If I have a knife or a ball bat, you're in trouble, buddy. But if you have a gun, that's just how I'm going to die.
Yeah, but
I've seen this mindset for decades, man.
It's weird.
I remember being a young man and being into guns and carrying firearms for self-defense and having people that I knew argue with me that carrying a gun is dishonorable. Men fight with swords and knives.
Swords.
Okay, look.
Swords.
Me surviving and defending my life isn't about honor, isn't about who is using the equal weapon to the other person. I mean, this notion that they have in their heads that somehow combat is this thing that is only justified if it's done on my terms.
Mm-hmm.
But if you step outside of what I'm willing to do, like I'm okay stabbing you with a sword, but I am not okay shooting you, then all of a sudden it's a problem. So like you said, this is just trying to wrap your mind around this type of stupidity is rather hard. And you run the distinct possibility of making yourself dumber just trying to think like they do. And you may kill brain cells.
It is true. It is a danger that we run, Tim. The things that we do for the people of the Second Legacy.
I know. The risks we take.
The risk we take. But legitimately, if you paid attention to what one of the other women said at the end of that clip, she said, so your son, okay, so implying that, assuming that is a correct assessment, this woman in this hypothetical, the one talking who is not going to have a gun for anything, bats, knives, perfectly fine, she's willing to sacrifice herself, her son, her significant other, because she doesn't believe in guns. Now, this is all hypothetical that she put forward. And her answer to that is, well, that's just the way it rolls.
Yep. That's how I'm going to die, I guess.
I do not and cannot understand the role of protecting. Let's just focus on that child piece because we've talked about it. That's something that's important to both of us, right? So protecting your children is like one of the most visceral, basic things that you would do as an individual. And she is so far down this rabbit hole of being against guns that she says, well, I mean, that's the breaks. Didn't work out.
Yep. Oops.
That is so mind-boggling to me.
But I mean, she's not that crazy because if you give her chainmail and a sword, well, game on. I'm fighting. You take your gun, sir. I have my sword and chainmail.
It's like
she's a fighter, man. It's just she doesn't want to use a gun because it's just not noble. You know,
she draws a line.
Fights for your life. You have to make sure that you're equally armed. Okay. If somebody comes at you with a pointed stick, drop the gun, sharpen a stick, and then fight if you want to be honorable. But shooting that person that's trying to stab you with a pointed stick, that is not acceptable. I'd rather just die.
It's just insane because like what you are literally seeing in real time. I'm curious. What are your thoughts on this, Tim? Do you think that this woman speaking from her perspective, like obviously it's her perspective, she can have it. Do you think that this is like a scarring experience that that instilled fear in her to the point where she's willing to basically walk down, a tightrope of just destruction? Or do you think she's so brainwashed to think that guns are bad that she's willing to accept any negative outcome as long as she doesn't do the gun thing? What do you think? I mean, like, this just doesn't make sense.
Here's what I think. You put her in a room with 3 guys that want to hurt her or her child, and you lay a gun in front of her. Despite what she said in this little moronic interview, she's going to pick up the gun and fight.
So you
if
think
she's
it's
really
just
so
posturing?
dumb that she's just going to sit there and let them shoot her and her child, then I guess that's just, natural selection. But I honestly don't think that's what she would do. She, these ideologues that go out there and say stupid stuff like this, they don't necessarily believe what they're saying. And once you put them in a life or death situation, things tend to change. Now, there are people that are just dumb enough that will just go, oh, well, I guess it's just my time. But most people, and I think including her, put into that situation, she would go ahead and pick the gun up, but then she just lie about it later. Well, I didn't really shoot him. The gun shot itself. The gun's the violent part. I was just there.
So you think this is more posturing and virtue signaling than actual real thought?
I mean, if she's truly that dumb, then she just needs to hold her breath until, well, the inevitable. Because it's just, people like that shouldn't reproduce. I mean, and they certainly shouldn't be parents. I mean, if you threaten my child, I will use anything near me to defend that child, right? I'm not going to put boundaries on it like, well, I could
can't do that.
You.
Can't do that.
But there's this stick over here I can beat you with. I'm going to beat you with the stick because I just morally... Sorry, son. Morally, I just can't do it. I'm not in it to win the fight. I'm just here to look good. We're
going to virtue signal our way out of this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I could see that. It's just the reason that I think this is so fascinating is because people genuinely feel that this is like people want to hear this. Like they're like, oh yeah, no, it's a very valid point.
You go, girl.
So noble. You go, girl. and like even if you watch this whole interview, even the other women at this table are kind of like looking at each other like, what? Like you. What? Like this is that big a deal? Okay, but let's continue because Brandon, I commend him immensely for even just being able to not. You know what? He did a good job in this. But let's go to number 3 because there's even more.
Sorry, I think it's irrational to think that way. You got to compartmentalize. You may not like guns because of your experience, but I think it would be reasonable to say you need an adequate tool to defend your household. In case 3 or 4 dudes want to come and tie y'all up and rip you or something. I mean, I didn't want to say that. It's okay. You got want to tie you up and do something nefarious to you. You need that level of protection. And guns aren't as bad as some people think that they are. Once you have a gun and you shoot it, you'll realize the value of having a gun. And there's a lot of other reasons why you would want a gun, the tyrannical government, all of the other stuff.
See, I think he deserves credit for bringing in the tyrannical government thing because a lot of times people will just kind of leave that out and be like, well, think about defending yourself. It's like, well, no, you got Ukraine, you got Israel, you got all this stuff going down. Let's just mention all of it. Let's it's a whole picture here. I don't know. I just thought that was.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely making the pro 2A arguments, and she's just being dumb. But
Tim's solution:
she said,
"You're dumb."
Yeah, man, you're dumb. So maybe she's sitting there in stunned silence. I don't know. That last clip, she really wasn't firing off much of a rebuttal. He was just kind of lecturing her a little bit. Mm-hmm. You have to wonder if she's truly believing the tripe that she's spewing, or is she just saying it because she thinks she's going to win brownie points? So I'm going to go down the brownie point path because she's just trying to win over favor with her fellow ideologue far left lunatics that, want to hold hands, sing kumbaya while, fire and brimstone's raining from the heavens. It seems like these people just have no sense of self-preservation. But I think, again, if we go back to what I said previously, you put them in a really bad situation, she's probably going to fight, and she'll fight with whatever she has available to her, gun included.
It's so interesting because this is one of my favorite things about doing this show with you. Personal sharing moment. I never know which way you're going to go on something like this because sometimes you'll be like, "Yep, nope, complete moron. She's toast. Bye." And then sometimes you're like, "This seems like a virtue signal. She'll do it."
I do. I just don't think.
I'm like, what?
Just looking at her body language and stuff, I don't even think she believes what she's saying. I mean, if you take a look at it, she looks uncomfortable in what she's saying.
Yes, I would agree.
I don't think she believes it. I just don't. So that's where I just want to place my bet.
That's your line. I respect that. Well, let's wrap with the 4th clip and see if you still hold that same view.
About it.
There's 3 people in your house. What are you doing?
Oh, we're all dying then, I guess. Go ahead, have the gun. We're all just gonna have a shootout.
To just say we are going to die just to not have a gun present.
I mean,
even if the person is proficient and they're using it to protect you, your children from bad guys who want to do harm.
Okay, what if my guy did have a gun, right?
Okay.
And he has it, but there's 3 guys, right?
Yeah, bang, bang, bang.
There we go. You're dead anyways.
What you mean?
What if they pull out and they got you?
He has a gun.
Well,
he has a gun, but what if he ends up? What if someone gets him in the head? He's dead. He has the gun in his hand now. Now I'm dead.
No, you pick up the gun and then
how am I gonna pick up the gun? They're pointing it at me. So I ain't got time to grab the gun.
This is what it is. You want to make the fight. You want to make the fight is advantageous for you as possible. So having a gun is advantageous for you. And if you have fears of guns, it would behoove you to talk to somebody about it, or take a gun, go get shooting lessons. And therefore you can overcome that fear, because at some point you may find a man that has a gun in the house, and that doesn't.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm
going to go with she really is dumb. I mean, I'm going to guess that her IQ is lower than her shoe size, because, I mean, here she's like, well, what if my man, there's 3 of them. I'm dead anyway. Unless I have a sword or baseball bat.
Or a baseball bat.
Then what if they shoot him in the head? Then he's laying there with a gun, and she's just like going through this whole what if situation that is just asinine. And the simple question is, will you defend your life or not? And she says, well, I guess I'm just dead then. I'm dead anyway. There's 3 against 1. I'm just dead. I still don't believe she believes that. I still think if you put her in a bad situation, she's going to come out swinging.
You're still not buying it
if she has one.
You're still not buying it. Okay.
No.
The thing that I thought was so fascinating about that is it really, this entire sequence, this shows the lack of chronological thought in this approach. I think that's the most important piece. Whether she believes it or not, I think that's a side table conversation. I think the main point is people actually look and expect to deliver this as a rational explanation for defending yourself and your family. Because the left will openly do this consistently. Well, called the police. Well, you defunded the police. Well, then duty to retreat. Well, you didn't retreat good enough. Did you look out that window? All of these
shoot him in the leg.
Shoot him in the leg. Shoot a shotgun in the air twice. President of the United States. But all of these things, it shows the lack of realistic expectation of what will actually happen in a real world scenario. Like even what she just said right there. And I think this is so interesting. So in her scenario, she's got 3 guys that are coming into the apartment in a hypothetical, right? Her man has a gun. Well, what if they shoot him in the head with a gun? Wait, right in the head and he's dead. Okay, well, you just said openly that they came and invaded your house with a gun. Like in your imaginary scenario, they just took him out with a gun by shooting him in the head. So they brought guns. You're making it a bat fight, and then you're not going to grab the gun anyway. She just disproved her own argument by saying they're going to bring guns in and you're going to have a knife and a bat to defend yourself 3-on-1. And it doesn't make sense at all. All it is cyclical logic to defend the point that she doesn't want to touch a gun and deal with the fact that that's a necessary tool, as Brandon said. I think that's so
I've seen this dynamic at play before, right?
Ooh,
so people
in the
get
wild?
into situations. Well, not hear me out. So
okay.
People get into these situations where they're sitting at a round table and they're having an open discussion. There's a camera rolling. And you don't really think, a lot of folks, her included, they're not chess players. So they're not thinking, well, if I say this 5 moves down the line here, this is what this person's going to say, and this is what my retort's going to have to be. No, she just spews stupidity, not thinking what the next question's going to be or how the conversation's going to unfold. And so now she's locked into this position of having to defend her moronic statement, because it's much harder for her to say, you know what, maybe you're right. Let me reconsider this. That's much harder for somebody to say generally than just to continue defending the stupidity. They're like, well, what if they shoot him in the head? What if they chuck a flashbang in the window and he's disoriented and they come in guns a-blazing? What if a nuclear bomb goes off outside? And just playing this what if nonsense stuff. And the what if stuff is just to cover up for the stupid statement she started with, and she's just trying to defend it. That, or she really is that dumb.
So it's quite the choose your adventure.
We got 2 choices here, folks.
It's choose
dumb
your
or dumber. I mean,
so your stance, and this is your take. And guys, if you're still watching, comments below. What do you guys think? So your stance officially is she made a dumb statement to virtue signal. Now she's too proud to back off of it, so she's making up stupid hypotheticals to defend that point.
Yep.
So that's your
Possibly.
stance. Okay.
Possibly, yes. I think it's a distinct possibility.
My stance is genuinely she's so brainwashed into saying that guns are bad and that's part of her identity that she will go to any lengths to validate that point. That's my perspective.
Do you think she would go so far as to actually live by that? Or die by that, as it may be?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I don't know the answer to that question. And here's
neither of
why.
us do, but what's your gut tell you?
Of course, my gut tells me that there would be a lot of running and flailing, kind of like a chicken with a fox in the hen house. I don't know. If you have this level of irrationality on a hypothetical where you're actually thinking it through in that moment when emotion is running, when oh my gosh, when your fight or flight is going, when all of your endorphins are, I don't think that you're going to say, I'm prepared for this to change my mind completely. I personally think there'd be a lot of flailing and hiding. I think the fight or flight reflex would be much more towards flight or hide. That's what I think would happen. That's my opinion.
Scream and run in circles.
Scream and run in circles.
That's a
hide
great
in the
defense.
Closet, or jump out a window, or whatever.
Beg and plead.
Beg and plead. Whatever it would have to be. That's my own personal take, because I think she's so irrational on what she's saying from a standpoint of the just thinking about it in a hypothetical. I think in the moment she'd fold like a cheap chair. That's what I think.
Yeah, probably so. Well, what do you guys think? Do you think that she would stick to this? Do you think that she would pick up a gun if it were available to defend her life or the life of her offspring? I look forward to reading those comments. I think this is a really, really interesting video in that you actually get to peek behind the scenes of what some of these lunatics actually think. And that should be enlightening, but a little bit concerning, because these people vote. Anyway, thank you for watching The Second Legacy, and we'll talk to you guys soon.